Recently, one of my viewers asked me to make a video about the way that I process my audio. Well, the thing is, the way that I do that depends on where I'm recording. For instance, some of you will know that I frequently record here in my garden. Although the downside of this is that my lavalier microphone not only picks up my voice, but it also picks up the background noise. The plus side is that out here I don't have to worry about the microphone picking up reverberation of my voice bouncing off nearby walls. But in the winter, and when the weather isn't so good, I record here inside. You can hear that reverberation because this room's only 8 foot by 10 foot and it doesn't have any acoustic treatment. And also the lavalier microphone that I'm using, it has a omnidirectional polar pattern, so we'll pick up sound from all directions. However, at the click of a button, I can make my audio sound like I'm using a professional microphone in a treated voiceover booth. Or I can record outside, where I've got a nearby road just behind me, birds up in the trees, and neighbours in their own gardens doing their own thing. And again, with the click of a button, I can make all of those outdoor sounds go away. And again, I've got crystal clear studio quality audio. So here's how I do it. But before I go into the details, could I ask you to please like, share and subscribe to help this channel grow. I've also put links down in the description to the things that I'll mention in this video. So now let's continue. I use Adobe Audition to process my audio, but you could also do much of this in Audacity. But in Audition, I import my audio into a multi-track session so that I can stack several effects at the same time. The first thing that I deal with is any background rumble. That's things like road and low frequency noises. To do that, I add a high pass filter using a 30-band graphic equalizer with all the frequencies from 80 Hz and lower turned down. I then add a 10-band graphic equalizer to warm up my voice with a little boost in the 125 Hz to 2 kHz bands. My next frequency tweak is to add the 20-band Vocal Magic graphic equalizer. It very slightly dips the sibilant ranges of 4 to 8 kHz and boosts frequencies in the 11.3 kHz band and higher. I'm now done with the graphic equalizers, but because my voice can be a little bit sibilant, I add the de-esser in the amplitude and compression menu. Once added, I choose the 4.4 to 7 kHz preset. The final thing that I add is the multi-band compressor, and I use the broadcast preset, although I do reduce the output gain from 0 to either -3 or even -6 dB. Now, this is sometimes just a starting point in my audio processing. It's probably enough when I'm using my professional and expensive microphones, but for my YouTube videos, I tend to use lavalier microphones. Because they are omnidirectional mics, they'll pick up reverberation in a typical domestic room. That's where the next processing step comes in. Adobe Audition has a de-reverb filter in the noise reduction section of the effects menu. I find it works best on my audio set to light reverb reduction at 20% and processing focused on mid-frequencies. Now that I've set up those effects, let's hear what we've got so far. Partway through, I'll activate the EQ and de-reverb. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. You can hear that the de-reverb filter that comes with Adobe Audition does have an effect, but we can do better with some paid-for plugins. Now, if you don't want to spend any money, I will show you a free method at the end of this video that will probably blow your socks off. So do hang around. Now, until recently, I've been using Waves Clarity VXD Reverb and Acon Digital's Deverberate 3 to get rid of the reverberation in my room recordings. both can work really well. And the reason I have both is that sometimes one works better than the other, and having both gives me choices. In the case of my audio sample, there's not much difference between the two plugins. So here's the audio completely unprocessed, and then I'll switch on the EQ and Acon Digital's Reverberate 3. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. So for my indoor recordings, that's most of the processing done. The EQ, the de-esser, the multiband compressor, and also getting rid of the reverberation. But for my outdoor recordings, I need to remove the background noise. I could use the noise reduction process in Adobe Audition, where I capture a small sample and use that and remove it from the entire recording. The trouble is that it doesn't always work, and sometimes it can cause some weird artifacts. By the way, there's also a noise reduction effect in Audacity that works in much the same way. Again, I've opted for the paid-for option when it comes to noise reduction plugins. I have 3: Waves Clarity VX, Isotope RX7, and Acon Digital's Extract Dialogue. For my outdoor samples, I like the way that Clarity VX and Extract Dialogue perform, and you can even stack them in Adobe Audition's multitrack session. I'll play my outdoor sample without the processing, that includes all the other parts as well, and then I'll turn it on part way through. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. You can hear that my processing makes quite a difference to my audio that's recorded outside, and that's how I've been processing my audio for the past few years. But here's the kicker. I've started to change the way I process my audio because AI can speed up my workflow and arguably make it sound better. For my last few videos, I've been experimenting with Adobe's Enhance Speech. It will clean up any background noise, take away any reverberation, adjust the EQ, and normalize the audio. It's easier than my usual workflow because the AI makes all the processing decisions. My only control is this slider to adjust the processing strength. If you have an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, you can access Enhance Speech, although you can get a free 30-day trial. I'll put a link down in the description if you're interested. Adobe Enhance Speech is an online process, and although I can upload video or audio files, I just upload the audio because that reduces the upload time. I'll show you how it works. I drag over my 2 test files, that's the one recorded outside and inside as well. When uploading has completed, the software starts processing in the cloud. When the processing is finished, the audio appears in the player where I can adjust the processing strength. Although 90% is the default, I found that my audio is actually okay at 50% strength, and that quite often produces fewer artifacts in the audio as well. So here are my 2 processed files. This is the one recorded indoors. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. And now the one that I recorded outdoors. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. You can hear that there's not much difference between them, so it doesn't matter where I record, whether it's outside or inside. Basically, the processed audio sounds the same. Now, this similarity got me thinking, what will the processed audio sound like when using different microphones? In other words, can Enhance Speech make a cheap microphone sound as good as an expensive broadcast microphone? So I recorded the same speech outside with 3 dynamic microphones, a Shure PGA-48 that cost around £50, a Mauno PD400X that costs around £130, and my professional vintage Beyerdynamic M69N. It's discontinued, but good examples are available online for between £250 and £450. So let's listen to each one, and I'll indicate on screen which one is playing. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. The setup I now use is almost the same as in my other video, but I swap out the original OTG cable that has one connector at each end for a USB-C OTG charging splitter adapter. Although there's the occasional bird sheep in there, all 3 recordings basically sound clear of any background noise. They've got a broadcast mic warmth to them, and they sound good. In fact, after processing, all 3 basically sound the same, at least to a casual listener. Now, I'm not sure how the AI is processing the audio, but for podcasts and YouTube videos, it sounds fine. That sound is a little bit different to my manual workflow, but both methods produce good results, and my viewers have responded positively to both without knowing that I've been switching between the 2 ways of processing my audio. What do you think of Adobe Enhance Speech? Do you prefer it to my manual processing, and does the AI make all the microphones sound the same? And importantly, would you use it? Let me know down in the comments. I'll put links to some of my other videos that you might like up on the screen, and it would mean a great deal to me if you'd like, share and subscribe. So that you won't miss any of my new videos, smash that notification bell. Until next time, thanks for watching and keep creating.